Kelly Finnell, welcome to the conversation today.
Thanks. It's great to be with you, John.
It's great to be with you. You're joining us from Memphis, Tennessee. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. And today we're going to be talking about the impact of employee ownership on morale and productivity, ESOPs, the like, and really how they can be leveraged within organizations. I love this topic. I think it's one that we don't explore and talk about enough because, it's really not the norm in a lot of organizations, honestly. And it's a really great untapped opportunity that we really should be thinking about and finding ways to incorporate more often in today's organization. So I'm excited to pick your brain and get your insights as we have this conversation. As we get started, I wanted to share Kelly's bio with everybody. Kelly Finnell is a sought-after speaker and leading expert on employee stock ownership plans. He has spoken at more than 300 conferences and meetings throughout the US, London, and Sydney, and he is a published author on using ESOPs in succession planning. A trusted resource to business owners and exit planners, Kelly is the author of the ESOP Coach, using ESOPs in ownership succession planning, and the president of Memphis-based EFS ESOP Consultants. Kelly graduated magna cum laude from the University of Memphis and from its law school. There's a whole lot more I could highlight about Kelly and his background, but Kelly, I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to share with the audience by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Well, maybe something that would be helpful is I have a little bit of experience in this area. It still amazes me when I think about the fact that I've been doing this for 44 years now.
Mm,
It's been the sole focus of my business for the last 15 years. And we're actually doing ESOPs all over the country. Last year, we did a transaction in Portland, Oregon, and in
mm.
South Carolina, and at lots of places in between.
Yeah, very cool. 44 years.
I
That's a good
know.
amount of time doing a lot of good work. So, congratulations to you on a long, successful career. That's awesome. Okay, as we dive on in, let's start by just defining things. Probably a lot of the audience is familiar with employee stock ownership plans, but can you spend just a little bit of time explaining what these are and how they differ from other employee benefit plans?
Absolutely. An ESOP is really two things in one. For a business owner, an ESOP is an alternative to selling to private equity or to a
Yeah.
strategic buyer. So, an ESOP gives a business owner a way to cash in on their life's work by selling to their employees using the ESOP trust as a conduit for that transaction. And the reason people use it as a conduit is because of the many tax benefits that are offered by ESOPs. But we'll come back to that subject. And so for the employees, an ESOP is a retirement plan. So it's a first cousin to a 401k plan. But there are three key differences between an ESOP and a 401k plan that allow it to serve that dual purpose of being a liquidity strategy for the business owner and a retirement plan for the employees. So, those three key differences are that an ESOP can borrow money, and no other
Mhm.
type of retirement plan is allowed to do that. It would be illegal for a 401k plan to borrow money. The second difference is that an ESOP can engage in certain transactions with parties in interest. And the third difference is that an ESOP is required to invest primarily in the stock of the sponsoring employer. So when you put those things together, an ESOP is a retirement plan. It can borrow money. And so it borrows money from a bank and also from the selling shareholder in the form of what we call a seller note, a promissory note. The second key difference is that it can engage in certain transactions with parties in interest. So the ESOP uses those two sources of capital, those loans, to buy stock from often a company's founder, the existing shareholder. And then the third key difference is that the stock that's purchased becomes an asset in the employee's retirement account. So unlike a 401k plan where you have a family of mutual funds to select as an employee to invest in, with an ESOP, you don't have to make an investment decision because the stock of the company is going to be often the sole asset in your ESOP retirement plan account.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that explanation. Um, what I'm suspecting some are thinking is, well, isn't there some risk in not diversifying, with this kind of a plan?
Absolutely, there are risks. And so one of the most fundamental theories of investing is that you want to have a diversified portfolio. And an ESOP is the ultimate concentrated investment program because typically the only investment of the plan is the company stock.
Yeah.
So, what do you do about that? The answer is almost all of our clients, when they adopt an ESOP, they at the same time continue the 401k plan
Yeah.
so that we have a balance. We have a diversified retirement plan for the employees in the form of the 401k plan, but then we also have this concentrated investment in the ESOP.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. I think about it as other forms of investment and other forms of like company ownership, that you might choose to be involved in. And you're still going to have your more traditional diversified retirement plans in place. You really need to, right? Because
Absolutely.
yeah, just like if I were to start my own business, there's lots of risk in that. If I were to, you know, buy into some other business or buy stock, heavily into another business, same thing. Like you could always have a lot of risk in that, but there's tons of potential benefits. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about, what ESOPs can do for the business. Like if someone's about to exit, an owner is looking towards succession planning and exiting, and they turn towards ESOPs. Like what can that do for the organization in terms of culture, in terms of, just the ownership mindset for the other employees?
Yeah, culture is a key concept involved in most of our clients that are interested in doing an ESOP. So many times we'll have a business owner tell us that the key to the company's success is the culture that they've created and nurtured. And a wise business owner knows that if they sell to a third party, that third party might tell them that nothing's going to change. But the
Right.
reality of it is, if they've bought the business, they're going to make the decisions, and the target's culture is going to become the culture of the acquirer. And so, wise business owners know that fact. And so, if a business owner wants to be sure that culture is going to be maintained and enhanced after their liquidity event, they can use an ESOP for that purpose because the people that control the company before the transaction are going to be the people that control it afterwards. And because of that, they're going to be able to maintain the culture. And because the employees are now going to have in their retirement plan account company stock, it's actually going to not only protect but also enhance culture because now they're going to be the beneficiaries of the company's growth. The business owner is going to cash in, and then in the future, the employees are going to cash in. So all of the employees are in the same boat, rowing in the same direction to make the company as profitable as possible so that when they have a retirement or other distributable event, they get the maximum amount of money.
Yeah, I think one of the really great cool things about this kind of an approach is, maintaining the culture that you have, as you mentioned, that's a really excellent benefit. Um, just the idea of me working in an organization where I know that I have control over the success of the organization, that I'm part owner of that organization, I'm going to reap the benefits of ownership of that organization, that collectively we're all in it together towards the success of this organization. Like there's just something different about that, than being just like one of a bunch of employees. And what often happens in many organizations is there's kind of sometimes an us versus them mentality between employees and management, and some of those types of things, right? And but one of the cool things about different forms of employee ownership, approaches within organizations, and ESOPs is one of them, is that you start to break that down because everyone is in it together, right? Everyone is part owner. Everyone wants to see the organization succeed. And whether you're a C-suite exec or you're, whoever, kind of lower rung employee, you all are part owners and you all have an invested interest. And it's just a different thing. Like so when you talk about culture, yes, you get to maintain the existing culture, but there's a different level of buy-in, to the culture and the success of the organization than I think that you're typically going to get in just kind of the run-of-the-mill types of employees that you typically have in, the average organization, right?
Yep, that's exactly right. And that is not just theoretical. That has been proven out over and over again. One of the favorite topics of people who are getting a PhD in management is to study employee ownership and the impact that it has on productivity and the profitability of a company. So there are literally dozens of dissertations that have been written on this subject that quantitatively prove the theoretical assumption that you would make that when employees become partners, the companies fare better. And
Yeah.
so that is now a provable fact.
Yeah, which is super cool. And it's always fun when you can put some data behind it. But it also just theoretically makes common sense, right? Like anyone just
Absolutely.
sitting here listening to it is like, well, duh, of course. And now we have data to go behind it, to support it. And so lots of benefits for the business owner who's selling, who's exiting, who thinking about succession planning. Lots of benefits for the organization as a whole. Lots of benefits for the employees, who are able to buy in, as a secondary option towards their own investing in retirement. I also just think as an employee, how cool is it for me to be able to have a piece of the business, like to just be able to have this option to be able to buy into it. Like I just think that's cool, to have that option, and that's not something that everyone gets. And in
Yeah,
fact, it's fairly
and the
rare.
great thing is that the buy-in, the cost of employee ownership is borne by the company, not
Right.
by the employees. So with a 401k plan, another key difference between it and an ESOP is with a 401k plan, employees contribute their own money and often get a match. With an ESOP, there are no employee contributions. The company funds the entire thing with a big helping hand from Uncle Sam. So I'd mentioned earlier that there are great tax benefits associated with an ESOP. And one of the key benefits is that if you have a 100% ESOP owned S corporation, and now about 80% of the new ESOP transactions that are done are for 100% ESOP owned S corporations. And if you have that situation, then after the transaction, the company operates tax free. So we can have a for profit business that's taxed like a church or a synagogue. No tax on the company's income at the company level because it's a flow through entity, it's an S Corp. And no tax at the shareholder level because our only shareholder is going to be the ESOP trustee. And like a 401k plan trustee, the ESOP trustee is tax exempt. So many people realize that at the end of the year, they get financial reporting on all of their investment accounts except one, and that's their 401k account. You don't get tax reporting on that. That grows on a tax deferred basis. And the reason is employees don't own their 401k account. They assume that they do, but legally, they don't. That account is owned for their benefit by the 401k trustee, and they don't get tax reporting because that trustee is tax exempt. So the same thing with an ESOP. And so Uncle Sam is going to provide a 40% tax subsidy for the company to share ownership with its employees because Congress feels that that is a very worthy goal.
Yeah, I mean, all those tax benefits are pretty cool.
Yes,
As you
absolutely.
as you mentioned. Um, let's talk about some of the best practices around fostering a positive ownership culture within a company. So let's say we're going about this process of establishing an ESOP. We decide, yeah, this is a good idea. We're going to do it. We're going to set this up. Let's talk about some of the best practices.
Well, employees are only going to appreciate the ESOP to the extent that they understand it.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
so having a robust communication process is critical for ESOP companies and is a very necessary best practice. So, what we often see is our clients will provide a very brief quarterly uh, one page newsletter to their employees. It's often just sent electronically, no paper. And it reminds the employees that first, they're owners of the company and
Hmm.
that their ultimate benefit is going to be dependent upon the success of the company. And then we often break down one of the rules or regulations that are involved in the ESOP so that they can begin to understand the plan better. So we do that quarterly. And then we always have an annual meeting where we talk to them about the plan, answer their questions, and at the end of the meeting, distribute their annual statement that shows how much stock was in their account at the beginning of the year, how much was contributed during the year, how much is in their account at the end of the year, and the value per share and the total value of their account. And so that dynamic of constantly communicating and reinforcing the benefit of the ESOP is a critical best practice.
Yeah. And I mean, frankly, organizations need to do a better job. I mean, almost all organizations need to do a better job of explaining benefits to their employees, regardless of what benefits we're talking about.
Yes.
And so that's a challenge and a problem for most organizations that I've seen. And so, especially if you're talking about something like this, that's less common, not as many people are familiar with, you're going to have to really go out of your way to over communicate it. If people are going to even really understand and be aware of the implications. And if you're going to leverage the motivational value of it, if you're going to be able to leverage the cultural value of it, you're going to have to go out of your way to over communicate it. So I appreciate you highlighting that. I don't think it can be overstated how
Well, and I
important that
think
is.
and I think you make an excellent point, John, about companies not communicating their benefits effectively. And so, what we encourage clients to do is to have a benefits afternoon once a year.
Yeah.
And so, they have someone come in and talk about their health and welfare plan and the ESOP and their 401k all in one afternoon so the employees can understand that the company often is spending 30% of the employee's compensation in addition to their salary and bonus to
Yeah.
provide these very valuable benefits to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So let's double down, make sure that we're really committed to openness, transparency, open communication, leverage the benefits of that motivation, the morale, the culture components that are huge, research-backed benefits of doing employee stock ownership plans. Um, if not, we're missing out, right? We're just not fully
Absolutely.
leveraging those benefits. Well, where can people go to find out more about this? Again, I think a lot of people probably might, they might be vaguely aware, kind of understand, but for many, this conversation might be one of the first times they've really heard more about it. So where can people go to find out more?
Well, you can go to some websites. So, our website has a wealth of just educational information. That is www.execfin.com. Then, like every industry, we have industry associations. And so you can go to the industry association websites. The two of them are NCEO, National Center for Employee Ownership.org. And the other one is TEA, the ESOP Association.org. And so you can get lots of educational information there. You also can order my book, which is available on Amazon and is the only book on the market that is written for business owners about ESOP. So it explains what an ESOP is in common language and has half a dozen case studies, because I think business owners oftentimes learn best from stories. And so these are actual client case studies where the names have been changed.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, this has just been a fantastic conversation. I know at the time I'm going to have to let you go here in a minute, but before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work and team, and then give us the final word for today.
Well, you can go to our website and find my email address there, which is kfin@execfin.com. So KFIN@EXEC.com. You'll also find our phone numbers there, me and my partner. And so you're welcome to contact us either by email or by phone.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelly. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, to get connected, find out more about what Kelly and his team can do for you. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.